Hello, guys. That's the first podcast called Coach Talk. I have my other one. There's the Brazilian version called Resenha. My first guest for the Coach podcast is Will Roberts from Wales. If you don't know him, I'm going to give a brief introduction. He played for University of Charleston men's soccer team on the seasons 14, 15, 16, 17 with the number on his number shirt 32. He scored in his freshman year 18 goals. That's already can tell a lot about the player he was. Second year, 21 goals. Third year, junior year, 21 goals. 17, 11 goals. It's controversial, 71, 72 goals on NCAA career, 25 assists, and he is on the top 25 all-time in history of NCAA D2 men's soccer leader scores. 4 times All-Americans, has 4 Final Fours, 3 national championship games, and on his last year to finish with the Golden Key National Championship, first national championship in University of Charleston, West Virginia history. So that tells about the player we're talking today. After that, graduate assistant coach at Lincoln Memorial University, won the conference title, right?
Yeah, won the conference tournament.
And now moved recently to University of Louisiana Monroe as assistant coach. So you can tell this guy is a baller. And if you want to see how he came to United States, that's the podcast to watch, or how he moved from player to coach, or how was his college career. We're going to talk about all that. But I'm almost out of breath here talking about you as a player, Will. If I miss anything on the introduction, you can go ahead and tell who you are.
Yeah, it sounds all good when you put it all together like that. I don't think I've ever heard it all together, so that sounds good when you put it like that.
I did my homework, and personally, who don't know, I play with you, University of Charleston. He was a starter. I was in the bench a lot of times, and I consider him as the most clinical player that I play in my life. We were forwards, and he used to do a lot of shooting drills together, and Will's finishing is unbelievable. So I put him as on the topic shooting, the best player I play with. And sometimes in the game, we know if Will had one chance, he would put in. And you can see on the highlights that there was in the beginning. So Will, let's start. I want you to tell how it started. You in soccer, in Wales. That's how everything started. Let's go from there on.
Well, I think with how I got into soccer, it's quite funny really, because when I was young, my brother was always the soccer star in the family. And then I was pretty much jealous to start off with that he was getting all this attention. So then I was like, right, if he's doing it, I'm going to do it and all of this. And then my brother went on to play for Wrexham, which is a team in Wales, which I also played for. But I think I got a trial because of my brother. He was 2 years older than me. And then they were like, my brother was really good. And then he went on to be signed for Manchester United at the age of, I think he was 14. They signed him. And then he was there till he was 16, maybe 17. And then he ended up getting he got his scholarship with his professionals with Aston Villa Football Club. So he was at Villa till he was like 19, maybe 20. So he was really good. And then I was trying to follow in my brother's footsteps. So I was playing for Wrexham, which is a local team. They're pretty good. They're about an hour away. And then I had the opportunity where I went on trial with Coventry City back in England. And then I had to make the decision at 16 if I wanted to move to Coventry City, which was quite big it's probably about 2 hours away from home. And I was 16 years old, and then I had to move 2 hours to the other country, which is England. And then, yeah, it was a big transition for me, really. And then I got a taste really quick of how cutthroat the real professional soccer world is when everyone's competing against each other.
Just quick addition. What position you're playing on your?
I was a right winger.
Right
I was a
winger.
right winger throughout my career. So I took that to UC, but then they tried to mold me into a striker my last year.
Yeah, I got it. So you got there, and what happened there? Let's keep going. I like the story.
In Coventry, I was doing well. I had an opportunity. I was playing with them, training. I was in a professional environment. There was a lot of top players. some of the players that have been in the same one is, if you watch the Premier League, Callum Wilson in Bournemouth. He was playing in the same youth team at one point. James Maddison, who plays for Leicester, he was in the same team. So there was some really good talent coming through. I think there's a lot of players. There's quite a few players now playing the Championship, quite a few playing in the Premier League that were in the same team. So it was a really strong team. And there was a head coach there, Gregor Rioch, who was he was really good coach. He taught me a lot. He humbled me a lot, I think, which I probably needed at the time. And then in came Lee Carsley, and he became one of my coaches for a year, 2 years actually. And Lee Carsley was former Everton captain for I don't know how many years, Everton legend. And he was one of the best coaches that's ever trained me. I've got to give him credit there. The detail he went to and how much he cared about the player. He used to take me out after training and sometimes just do like 30 crosses after training, just day in, day out. So we'd be training twice a day, every day. So I think he was massive for my development. And then I was fortunate enough on my 18th, the week I turned 18, I got fortunate to make my debut in the Championship, which is the second division in England. And it was against Southampton. And God, Southampton so good.
I saw this video. How many people in the stadium?
It was 32,000.
How was your legs?
I got subbed in like the 28th minute or something because one of the players went down, and I just turned 18 that week. And if they beat us in this game, they were getting promoted to the Premier League. So this was the big game. So the fans were crazy. And yeah, I was there, and then he called the gaffer, the manager called my name, and I was like, oh my gosh. It was on national TV and everything. So I was like, all right, we're going in. And then I remember going in, and then my nerves settled straight away, really. I remember just thinking, I've got to get through to halftime, and then I'll be okay. And then I got through to halftime, didn't make any mistakes. And then, but their team they had some serious talent in that team that beat us. They beat us bad. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. It was a life-changing experience. And then we went into my professional year, and then I was playing with the first team a lot in the pre-season and everything like that. Scored a couple goals, and then went into I carried on playing, and then we had an under-21s league and everything like that. There was a lot of problems in the club. The club went bankrupt at one point, which was bad. And then we went through a lot of different managers in a year. So my last year was probably my least favorite year in football, I think, which then I think there was so much undoubt, like you didn't know what was going to happen every day. You didn't know if you were going to stay, if they were going to keep you, offer you a new contract. So that was a tough side of the game that I learned in my last year when I was 18, 19. And then we went on from there, and then I got released from the club, and then I was wondering what am I going to do with my life, because it was the end of the season. It was the last day of the season. So for the rest of the summer,
how old are you?
19, I was 19, maybe turning 20, not far after.
Sorry to interrupt you. I always want to make you that question. How hard was to finish your high school doing soccer in that environment, doing soccer in a high environment? How hard it was to make these two decisions?
So you can graduate properly from high school, I think, at 18 if you want to go to university back home. But at 16, you can technically leave high school, but you haven't got the education necessary to go to university. So when we went and we played soccer, we did these sort of BTEC courses, they're called, and they were enough to get you into certain colleges, maybe. And in America, luckily, they accepted it. And we did those in soccer, but I mean, it wasn't the same as finishing high school. I wouldn't say it was a lot easier the way they set it up for the soccer players, because everything was soccer. I mean, they don't want to take your focus away. You might do a few hours a week. But I mean, I definitely think when I first moved to the States, I missed out on the education side, because I found my first semester of transition really difficult to like get back into education. At the end of the first day of the summer, when I got released from the club, and I was trying to decide what am I going to do, and then I had all summer to think about it and everything, and then I decided I'm done with football. I was sick of football at the time, and I wanted to go to university. And then the opportunity came out where I just started hearing one of my brother's friends that he played with in Man United and in Aston Villa was actually playing at Long Island University.
Oh,
So
LIU?
yeah, like you, who we played against him, I don't know, twice or
Was
three
the
times.
coach Lindenberg at the time, the one that is a Saddle Hole now?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So it
And
was Jason Lampkin, and then I got in touch, and they're family friends. So I got in touch with them, and he was telling me all about America, how to get in. We went to his house, everything like that, and he was a big help for me. And then I was like, all right, I want to do it. And then I had no idea, and I decided in like November that I wanted to go. And then if I had to come out in August, the following August, I'd had to sit out a year of eligibility or something like that. And then I was talking with a couple of schools, and then Chris was like, I can get you here now. We can do it in January, Chris Grassi. So Chris just sold me on everything. You know how good he is at getting everyone to Charleston. He's a
the
great
pep
recruiter.
talk.
Yeah, he can talk to anyone, and he
How
convinced me.
how he find you? You had a company? Was just you by yourself? I
I was
was when
I was with the FA. So when they're playing back home, there was a guy that basically looks after professional soccer players after they get released. So like, what do you want to do with your life? And his name was Mark Scarborough, and I reached out to him because I knew I was a member of this company club or whatever, like the professional, like everything. And then we went through him, called him. He came. He was great. Honestly, he set up a meeting with us. Me and my mum and dad told me about it. He had a few contacts, and one of his contacts happened to be Chris Grassi. And I'm sure Chris Grassi's done well off that man over the past few years. So yeah,
oh,
it was a good transition. And then Chris was brilliant. He was calling me back home, everything like that, like
h-
every week.
how many
So yeah,
offers? Sorry to interrupt you. How many offers you have, and how
because
was
it
the
was so late
process?
and I wanted to come out in January, I think I had three. I think I had three. I happened to have like a video of me when I was 16, maybe,
Yeah, video
maybe
at that time was hard. Yeah.
Yeah, there was different days, and then there happened to be a guy at Coventry that was an intern, and he was just like doing it for fun. And I happened to have this one of me when I was like 16, and I was like, "Do you have any video?" I was like, "Well, I have this one. You can have this one." And then yeah, Chris happened to, like, took a chance on me, luckily, and then I made the move out to the United States in January. I came out, which was obviously mid-season, basically, or mid-year.
Um.
So
So good, great story so far. But I have a question. What the number 32 is because you had 32,000 on your debut, or is just why you choose the number 32? Are you
I
saying?
don't know. Like, it's been, I don't know. That makes sense, and like that's the like it just happened to work like that. But I've had that. I've had it in my. I mean, like, your emails since I was young, like 32. I
32.
don't know why.
Okay, okay.
So
But it's
I don't
just
know. It's a strange thing. I don't know. I'm just all about 32 for some reason.
let's go now. You arrive at UC off season. How how was from there? What can you tell us? Adaptation, the team, school, like you said. Let's go from there.
Well, I remember thinking, right, I'm coming out to America. I didn't know anything about the divisions or like how any of that worked. I mean, I don't think many of us did, coming from international. But and it happened all so quickly. And then I came out Division II. Originally I thought I was going to Charleston, South Carolina, but it was Charleston, West Virginia. I don't know how many people have done that.
Uh,
I know there's a few boys that have thought the same thing. But then I figured out like a month later or whatever, and then I was like, all right, I'm here. And then I had a couple of lads pick me up, Fabi and Vite and Jake Young picked me up from the airport, and then they took me to campus. And yeah, I remember thinking like, this is all really new and everything like that. But I thought, as far as soccer went, I thought I was gonna like, this is gonna be easy almost, because it's like America. I've played back home and everything like that. And I remember training the first day or whenever it was, and I was like, this level is really high. Like at Charleston, I remember thinking America's going to be quite easy. I thought, like, as far as the soccer goes, I didn't think it was going to be easy, but I thought it was going to be a lot. There was going to be a big difference from the stand I was playing in, like, consistently the reserves of a professional team, the reserve team. And yeah, I remember thinking the standard straight away was so high. It was all ex-pros, from all across the world playing together in the University of Charleston, West Virginia. And I remember the tempo was higher, a lot higher than I thought. And I was thinking that this team could like potentially beat the team that the reserve team, the second team that I was playing for in the professional club. And I was like, this is a really strong team. I mean, there was a good mix of Brazilians. There's a lot of players that I'd never played with before, because playing back in England, I'd only played with English players, really. And then I came out, and then with the Brazilians, I mean, I came across Augusto, obviously, Renan. I think Renan megged me 3 times in a session. And I was like, oh, God.
Like,
And then came out, we had kids from New Zealand. You had kids from,
Germany.
from England. Yeah, we had everywhere. So
Yeah,
it
if
was, it was
you talk about, I don't think of American starting the team. If you're talking about it, you're talking about tell the starting team and what the country they're from, so people can know how international is.
we had Fabian Veit in goal, was German. Andy Harrison was right back, English. Jordan Lavender, English. Jake Young was also English. And then left back was Bruno, who was Brazilian. Sitting in front would have been Michael Haggerty, who was from New Zealand. Connor Branson, who was from England. And then Kevin Foyt, who was German. I would have been on the right from Wales. Renan or Lewis Osborne was on the left, England or Brazil. And they had Gusto up top, who was Brazilian. So it was a really diverse team, but it was one of the best teams I've ever played for. That, especially that 2014 year. I think that was probably the strongest team I played for since I was in America, for sure.
How was your first season? Because I arrived there late, and I saw a team that was old. Like, I looked the team starting was like everybody 21. Probably you or Bruno were the youngest starting, and we didn't lose. Like the first year that I watched that I was playing for UC, but I didn't start. I was like, what is this soccer? Because I think the record is 22 or 21 wins and 1 loss in the national final for Lane. So
Yeah.
how was the feeling of you going to the season and feel unbeatable? How was that?
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember, I think it was the first team that we played with, Mercyhurst maybe, and we won. I think it was on opening night, home night, and it was the first game we played in college, and we won like 6-0. But that was like a good Mercyhurst team at the time. But the team was just so excited, and I think they travelled, and they just didn't know like how the level that we were coming in at that year. And we were just rolling teams over. I think one of the records we had was we didn't concede in the first half the entire season until the national final, and then we conceded 3 in like 18 minutes or whatever it was. But that's a memory that always stick with me. But like I remember the team was just rolling people over. We were playing so quickly. There was so much athleticism, strength, technique. That was the best team. That 2014 team was really good.
And I think as a coach now, I think one of the differential aspects for the team is they didn't you guys did not have 11. And if you're in the practice environment, sometimes the reserve team would win the scrimmage. And that's very hard. After I moved to other college environments, you normally have good 11, good starting team, but your bench, they're never going to beat your team. And this team, I remember when Luis or I would be in the bench team, and then you have I forgot the name of the players, but like the both goals were good. Like the practice was harder than the game sometimes, and I think even when you change it, like you have 14 players that could play, and so that would help on the subs. The quality was high, and I think that was one of the things that was so impressive. You have like French in the bench, Lucas, Rano. Like we're talking about guys that could be starting with good scholarships in other places, and I think that was a key differential. One other thing I want to talk is I remember a game where you guys beat, I don't remember the team, but you guys beat a game I think was 13-0. And I remember after the game, every team would park the bus against you guys. So with 11 behind the midfield, just moving. So talk about the final. You go to the Final Four. There's a unique experience. You beat Colorado Mesa, good win. You go to the final against a good team from Lane. And what can you talk about the final?
My personal opinion on the first year was the nerves got the better of some people. I think we were probably a bit arrogant going in. which was probably our biggest downfall. We've worked with 22-0 at this point. We've beaten everybody. We've come to Lynn. Lynn were a good side. They were very physical, big boys. Like I think the two centre halves were 6'4". So it was a really physical game. They were really up for it. I remember getting tackled every single time, like really like late. And then they'd be there talking to me, like they'd look me up. They were telling things about me from my previous clubs and stuff. And I was like, all right, it's a good game. I'm excited. But then we started to work. We built our confidence up again. We built our way into the team, and it was a really I don't know. I remember thinking after the games like, oh, I've got 3 more years. Like I'll win it. Like in the next year. But then it keeps happening, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, like am I ever going to win that title? But yeah, it was a humbling experience. That's the best way to put it. I think it was a humbling experience in the final. And even though I do think that was the best team in the country, the Charleston team that year by a long way, I don't think we deserved to win it on the day. That's the best way I could put it, really.
Okay, so good. How how you got the 18 goals as a freshman year? Because now as a coach, from my coaching, I know my freshman scored 18 goals on his first year. I signed him right away. Um, how you got to the mark was something that came naturally, or you were like every game setting marks, or you send a mark on the beginning of the year, I'm going to score 20. How was your freshman year preparation like? Because it's 18 goals freshman year, any coach in the country signing is with that. So how you think that numbers came?
I think I've got to give credit to Chris Grassi on that one. I think he loved using his wingers, and I was an out and out winger at the time. Like I just loved playing out on the wing and being able to slip in behind, and the players that we had around us. And he was the style of play that we had where I was able to get in on goal on the inside a lot more rather than just staying out wide. I think with the players, the quality we had, Augusto was fantastic to link off, because I hadn't really had the opportunity to link off a true number 9 like Augusto at the time. And Connor Branson, range of passing, was always finding me in behind, and I love to play on the back shoulder. So I think the players around us and the style that we had, and as my confidence grew, I needed to start setting. I knew that there was competition, that like we needed to win games, but then I started setting goals because I started looking at the table, saying who's the top goal scorer in the country, and I was like, I want to be number 1. And every single year I was number 2. I was never number 1. Like yeah, I was always there, but I never got to number 1. And it annoyed me every year. But that was the one thing that I really wanted from a college career on top of a national championship, was to be number 1 in the nation for one season. And I never got it. There was always someone new.
It's interesting that you mentioned Connor, because when I was a volunteer, Marshall was the assistant coach, and I told him, you have to give half percentage of your earnings when he went to Pittsburgh to Will Roberts, because I told your scouting video, half of the minutes is you doing long balls to Will Roberts. And I say, your balls are good, but you have the Will making the runs. So I always say he owns you. I always joke with him and say, you got to pay Will, because he make you rich as well. I used to joke about that.
He was fun to play with, for sure.
Second year, just said if something changed, and I want you to build up there, and then I want to talk to you. How was the game with Pfeiffer? Because I always tell to everybody that was the best college game that I ever watched. Was the Final Four game against Pfeiffer. But what's changed in your role from freshman to sophomore going second year? A lot of players graduating. How was that for you?
I think we lost a few players. I think the biggest loss that we had was Kevin Foyt, who moved to Santa Barbara. It was a big loss. I think he was one of the best players I've ever played with. But we continued to. I think I was demanded a little bit more. I don't think it was more of a shock, surprise. And I remember Chris Grassi calling me in to the office at the end of my first year, and he kept mentioning the sophomore slump. That was his thing. He's like, don't have one of those. I've seen loads of players have them. You think you're good after you've had one good freshman year, and then you start relaxing. So I remember that they worked us pretty hard. We had some big games in the spring. I think that was big. We had Butler, Pittsburgh. We had some big games that spring, and they were challenging us. They were challenging us quite a lot, like physically. Akron might have been thrown in there, I'm not sure. But then we were playing WVU, was a good one that we actually managed to beat WVU. So that was a big win in the state of West Virginia for us. And yeah, we were hammering against these teams, and then we knew we had to keep pushing ourselves. And I think he wanted a little bit more of a leadership role. I don't know if it was too early for me then, maybe to have a leadership role. I was still a little bit in the mindset like back home with the professionalism, where I'm starting to enjoy playing as a team again, but there's still this part of me where I'm just completely thinking about, I want to be the best player on the field, that just scoring and stuff. I think there was still that mentality in me, because you always think you're going to get cut or something like that. It's hard to shake that off after being in the professional environment, where when you come out to like a team like UC, I remember, we'll get into that more, but I think you get that a lot more of that team environment in the college game. So I think that's how that started. And then, yeah, I was really setting goals. That's when I was determined to be the number one scorer in the nation my second year. Didn't happen. But then we continued to play. We had a great team again. 14 and 15 were very strong years. And I'm sure we went on a good run. I'm not sure. Do you have the stats?
Yeah, I don't know the records, but I know you scored 21, give 6 assists, but I know we lost for Pfeiffer. And but always win. You see, always beat 20 wins. You know, you see gonna get 20 wins.
Yeah, of course.
But I think I want you to talk about the game against Pfeiffer, because I don't. Maybe it's Jake's last year, Jake Younggood, and the team. You know, is the end of a cycle of that winning team, because something that is good people know is when we arrive at the UC already has an implemented winning culture.
Yeah.
But when you will arrive, the first year they made to the national final and really made it. But UC was already winning conference, going to national. But when we will come in the right time. But I think the culture was already there, and Chris Grace already had the time to make the things was already moving by itself by then. So when you go the second time to the Final Four in Pensacola, what can you tell about the game against Pfeiffer and what that means? Because you have the seniors' feelings, because you got, when you're a freshman, you don't know how much the person, when you go sophomore, you already know the guys for 1 year, 2 years, and you see more than your family. And how was the game for you? Because tough game, you end up getting the goal, we go extra time, we miss the chance, they score on the counterattack. They have the top scorer in the country that year, Nathan, the guy from Trinidad and Tobago, with 32 goals.
I think it was.
They have the two Spanish wingers and the number 10 and you have Connor playing last year. I think it's Connor, Jordan, Lucas last year. You're talking about like 4 or 5 seniors. So I don't want to stop talking. How was the game? Sorry.
No, you're good. It was. You're getting like a flashback to it. It was. Yeah, it was tough. I think it came to a shock where we started hearing about this team that was, when it hit tournament time, we didn't really concentrate on other teams, I think, during the season. But when it hit tournament time, we started looking and seeing who was strong on the East Coast, because I feel like the East Coast has always been the strongest when it comes to D2 soccer. Every year, I think the D2 teams are much stronger on the East Coast. And then, yeah, Pfeiffer, this team had popped up, which we hadn't heard of the previous year. And then they were just rolling teams over. And then I think we watched them against, I'm not sure who it was against, but they were really strong. And I remember thinking, like, this is a really good team. Obviously, there was a little bit more passion towards the game because they had the striker as well that was on a load of goals. So I was excited for this game to, like, prove, like, who's going to win. We knew it was a massive game. I think everyone knew that was the final, that he was the semi-final, but everyone knew that whoever won that game was going to win the tournament. And yeah, they were really good. That was one of the best. That's probably the best game I've played, like, in college soccer against another team. Like, how competitive it was, the tempo of the play. It felt like a much higher level than what it was. And yeah, it was fine. It was down in Pensacola, so it was getting used to humidity. Obviously, in America, you have to travel so much to places across the country. So, I mean, we're going from West Virginia, where it's getting cold in December, down to Pensacola, where we're going from turf to grass, and there's humidity down there and everything like that. So that was a bit of we had to get used to that a little bit, which you get in every Final Four. You get into a different environment, which is fun. But I think with that team, we got back into the game, and they scored early. I remember they scored early, and then we were grinding against them, keep going, but then they were defending well. They had opportunities, to be fair to them. I thought their wingers were their best players. I thought they were incredible. And then we managed, Lewis Osborne, I remember, got a slide tackle in, I think, and got a break and slipped me in.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm just going to put this in my favorite corner straight across goal. And I was like, I'm putting everything I've got into it. I wasn't even trying to place it. I was just like, I'm going to fire it across this guy, because we'd had chances and we weren't putting them away. And it was almost frustrating. So I just went for it. And then I think we were so determined to win it because I think the seniors, like Connor, Luca, Jordan, all those type of Bruno, was it Bruno's year? Maybe Bruno as well was that year. We were determined to win it for them because we didn't want them to go out. And that's when I started getting the family feel in the University of Charleston, where you care about your teammates, you want to win as a team. And then, they scored in extra time, which is one of the hardest things in college soccer, is that golden goal rule.
And it's brutal because people that might be watching on NCAA, you don't have a limit of substitutions. So the intensity is really high to keep it. Sometimes coaches change 5 players at once, but keep the intensity high. So when you go in extra time, sometimes in college soccer is brutal. What I remember about the game that I like it a lot is none of the teams want to defend, like was sitting down. Both of the teams were just attacking. So it got to that point that the game was so excited to see because you didn't have the midfield block. Was a team attacking and the other team attacking, and both teams want to win, and you didn't have the team sitting down. So as soon as one attack is done, the other team was attacking. So it was a game very dynamic where both teams were like taking the risks, were didn't trying to stay and lock the house. So yeah, definitely my best game of soccer I ever see it. One of the toughest losses. And we knew it. Both teams knew it. Since the final with 15 minutes was 3-0 for Pfeiffer against I don't remember the other opponent, but that was the anticipated final, how we call it. Moving to the third season, I forgot to ask you, what do you think is the importance of playing Summer League and what teams you play Summer League before I go to your junior? If you just summarize, if you think it's important, what teams you play and how was your experience in playing Summer League, that the people that don't know is when you finish the spring season and then you have the fall, you have a break window where it's the summer. And a lot of players, they don't come back home. They stay and they play summer leagues to keep it touching the ball and create even connections for professionals. A lot of aspects involved. So how was?
I think if you're serious about soccer, if you're at a university where you want to be competitive and you feel like your team can be competitive, and I mean, I'm not going to say it's for everyone because it's just not for some. There's a certain level that you've got to be at to play in it. But in the PDL, the PDL was a very good standard. It's mostly Division I players, and then you've got some Division II players also in there. Good mix, and it also gives you the opportunity to travel around the country. I never stayed at the same place like twice. I was somewhere different every year because I wanted to see the country a little bit more, and I wanted to play at a good level every time. But I regret not playing at one place twice, which was Chattanooga. Chattanooga was phenomenal. I think I should have gone back. I went there my junior year, and I should have gone back again my senior year. But I was in Michigan, my first year in the Michigan Bucks, who is a very well-known PDL team. I think they've probably got the highest rates of players that go from there into the draft in the MLS. So I think that's a very prestigious.
And they just won. They just won last year. They are called Flint Seat Bucks, but they just won the USL 2 on the summer last year.
There you go. Then that sums it up. I remember we went up to learning experience again. That was after my first spring. I went straight into the summer league, and that was a straight competitive environment as well. But I think that prepared me massively. Yeah, that could be a massive reason to why I was getting adjusted to my first season where I was managing to get 18 goals, because I'd had a spring, a summer, and then I went into the fall. So maybe that let me settle my nerves a bit in America. I'm not sure. And get to know the game and how much quicker it is athletically. I think it's very fast athletically in America. And then my second year, I went to Ocala, Florida, which is now the Villages, I believe. So
yeah.
The last team was the Ocala. Before that, it was the Ocala Stampede. Went down there and had a great experience in Florida, played some good Florida teams. And then I was in Chattanooga in Tennessee, and then I was in Oklahoma City. So it's a great opportunity. It's high level. It prepares you for the season more than anything. You're playing against Division I players, or all the top players in the country are playing in that league because they're trying to be seen by MLS teams. So everyone's competing week in, week out. You typically get housing. You typically get food. You might have to find a second job maybe when you're there. I'm not sure if you can do something on the side. But it's definitely it's a great opportunity, and I'd recommend it to anyone that's serious about soccer.
Oh yeah, that is good. It's good that we touch that side. So junior year, 21 goals again, 21. Did you enjoy the 21 goals? Did you get frustrated because it was the same last year because you have 18, 21, 21? And how was junior year for you and getting the final 3 years? While we are talking, I just want people to know, I think very unlikely I'm going to interview someone that have 4 years going to 4 Final Fours and 3 national championship finals as we're talking right now. So I think that's probably one of the top careers. And how was your junior year in your vision? How you think it went?
Junior year was it was a different experience because I don't know, it felt like a very different team that year because we'd lost so many players and there's so many core players from the first 2 years. I felt like we were much younger, where we'd gone from, maybe we weren't, I'm not sure what the actual statistic is, but I felt like the average age of the team went down quite a bit because we had quite an older team really. I think the average age before might have been 21, maybe 22. But when we got into junior year, it was a bit old, it was a bit younger. So then I felt like I had to step up quite a bit and start taking the role upon myself of starting to be a bit more of a leader. I think it was Jake Young's senior year, he became captain, and I thought he did a really good job on letting the players know basically how important this stuff is, and that is its senior year, and how these new players coming in are going to work for this team. And I think we did really well considering. I don't know how strong the actual team was that year compared to the other years. I think that the 3 other years, I mean, it's hard to say because you went to a national final, but so it's hard to compare like how it works. But as far as it goes, I think that might have been the year that we were down a little bit. I knew I had to bring some goals as well. I think Goose had left by that point as well, so I knew you've got to step up. Renan Lewis Osborne had all left, so I knew that was a big moment for me to step up with goals. And I got 21, but we went and then we did well. We went through the tournament. It was a tough tournament. I think that was one of the hardest ones to get to the final that we've had. We went to penalties against, I'm not sure who it was, in the Sweet 16.
Adelphi.
Adelphi, yeah. That was a tough game. Adelphi were really strong. So I remember I was at LIU, and I remember in Long Island, and I remember thinking, this is a tough game to get to the Final Four. It went down to penalties. And luckily, I was fortunate to have the last one to send us through. So we sent us through, and then went to the Final Four. Did okay in the semis. It was got through it. I think we might have gone down to start off with.
I can check here. Let me give you can talk. The semis was.
I believe it was. I believe we went down 1-0, and then we came to a really good year that year. Felipe was a top player in my junior year.
So, talking about 16. Let me push it here. I'll tell you right now who was 16. Semifinal Rockhurst 2-1.
2-1, yeah, against Rockhurst. I think we went down 1-0, and then I managed to get a goal in the second half early. It was a scrambling goal. It wasn't a good goal at all, but it doesn't matter at that point. And then I remember Felipe got a header and in the front post, and he had a great year that year. I mean, when he's on, no one can stop Felipe when he's dribbling. Like, you don't know where he's going to go.
It's funny because I record already on my Brazilian podcast. I record 3 episodes, but I have 3 that is already recorded. I'm going to launch, and 5 people out of 6 said Felipe was the best college player to ever play. And they talk about I'm going to interview him. It's hard. He's late. It's hard to get him on an interview, but I'll bring Felipe on the podcast as well.
Yeah, he's when he's dribbling at you, you never know which way he's going to go. So he was great. He was great to play with that year. He had a great year. I think he sent us through in the Elite 8 and Sweet 16. He was phenomenal. Where he was. I think he chipped the keeper and everything. He was great in the tournament that year. And then we got to the final. We played against Wingate, and I think they had a better tactical game than us, to be honest. We got to the final, and I think we were playing. We had most of possession, everything, but they had their low block, and they were waiting on us, countering on us. They had a deflection maybe that went in the first goal, but I think tactically they prepared for that game a little bit better than we did. If I was trying to break down the game from what I could see. And yeah, I think they were happy to be out of possession, which I think is absolutely fine. I think it's a good way to win the game if you're good out of possession. you can control the game out of possession easily if you're frustrating the other team and everything like that. So we were trying to move them, but they were staying in their low block, and then they hit us twice on the counter, and they executed their plan perfectly in the national final. So that one, I do think we were defeated in that game. I think all the other games, I think we could have won. I think we could win that one as well, but I think that one we actually deserved to lose, even though just based on the way we executed our game plan.
I agree with you. I think I talked to their goalkeeper coach at the Baltimore Convention this year, and he told me they did a low block where they keep 25 yards the whole team. So their goal was just compress the field, and they say that one of their tasks was not let us create chances, and they say that was their goal. And I think they did it really well. They have the best defense in the country. They have a very international team as well. The final is a different game. They say they didn't care, and they say they know their goalie was good, so they were ready to go to extra time. But they say more luckily they have a player from Portugal. They scored the 2 goals, and he said he was in his day. He said we came to defend, and this kid he put it 2 goals that they never expected him to put it. But he said how much they study, because they say when you guys come the third time, you are the team to be beaten. And they say it was a lot of study on this game. So they say nobody wanted to face us. So they say they of course in the final they won it, but they say nobody wanted to face them. So after that year, I agree with you. I feel after the game against Pfeiffer, the feeling was of decreased level on the team, just being honest. And when we go to the final, we go there, but we kind of would not believe it, because I think on your first year, everybody was cocky on the final in a way.
Yeah.
Second year, you could achieve it. And I think on the third year, we go in the final, but you don't know. And then last season, Chris Gracie go to Marshall. Dan Stratford, assistant coach, promoted head coach. Felipe is gone. All that generation gone. And you're the only one left. I think me and you, that was from the generation 14. How is the start of the season? You got probably you, Paulo, they were 20, they were older. How was this? Because this season I didn't thought you would achieve it, just because I thought it was a transitioning year. Was Strats would have to fix some stuff, lose best players, lose Bruno, Felipe on the 16. So how was for you senior year adaptations? You're rowing the team, changing the role, coming a striker. If just summarize.
I think for me that was the year where, as far as soccer goes, it might have been the year I had to learn the most. Where like the way I was thinking about soccer, I changed a lot. Where I wasn't just a dribbler out wide. I had to become this forward. Strat came up to me and says, "What do you think about playing as a lone number 9?" And we were playing a 3-4-3. And obviously, I'm not the tallest. I was like, "All right, like I can play on the shoulder and I can run it behind, but like I'll have to work on my movement and everything." And I've got to give credit to Ali Simoes. Ali Simoes was really good with me, where he gave me time to so he would work with me sometimes after training, where he'd tell me how I should move, how I should hold the ball up, everything like that, because it was so unnatural for me to play with my back to goal. And tactically, I thought we were defensively. I thought we were. That was one of the key differences between the styles of play in the coaching switch. I think at the time was we went from where we were so dominant. We were still dominant in possession in the 3-4-3, but we became much more of a defensive team as well, really defensively compact. And I think it was a big decision from Strats to switch to a 3-4-3 from a 4-3-3. But yeah, I think it obviously was the right decision. I think it was one of the best teams I played in, where we tactically knew everything that we were going to do. Where in previous years we had such good players, and Chris allowed us with so much freedom where we could express ourselves. So it was a real big switch between, and both of them have their own styles. They're both amazing coaches, and they both obviously do so well. I think Chris has built that team up, and then he had the most exciting team I've probably played on, where I was able to express myself. And Strats had the most maybe disciplined team, I think is a good way to put it. So it was a really fun transition my senior year, and we got to a point, and we got to a confidence level again, like I felt like in 14 and 15, where we got almost a bit almost that, not, is a bit arrogant, but like a good arrogance about you. And yeah, we were going into games, and we were so disciplined and ready for each team. And yeah, we went into each game, and we were just so ready for each game. And I got to play. I didn't score as much, but I was willing. That was probably my last year was the year where I was like, I don't care what I do as long as this team wins this national championship. That was the only thing that mattered to me. And it was probably because I wasn't as comfortable in the forward role as well. It's just, it's a big switch for me as a lone nine. But yeah, I felt like I was contributing more to the team almost my last year than I was the other 3 years, even though I was scoring less. I don't know. It was a strange transition, but it was definitely it was my favorite year. Was my last year, just based on obviously winning. You can't replace that.
I want to
But
talk. Sorry to interrupt you. You guys, you guys did a great season, and then you have the game against. I think I always forget the name of the team, but you lose on the final of the conference.
Wesleyan, West Virginia Wesleyan, I think, yeah.
But how important you think was loss at that point to come back on track before nationals? Because normally when you see you win the conference and you get that, and and you lost for a team that you didn't expect it. How was
Yeah.
that moment for you, and how you guys deal with that? Sorry if I interrupt you, Will.
No, you didn't. You're good. We had West Virginia Wesleyan were good that year. To be fair to them, they were, I think they were second in the league that year behind us as well, and they were. It's always a competitive, and it's a big rivalry. So we were always excited for that game, and we lost to them in the final, and it was just one of them games where I think we were almost a little bit set back, where we were content with, we just thought we were going to win, and then we luckily, which I think the best thing for us was, we lost in the tournament, and then they were there, they were arrogant, screaming our faces, all of that stuff. And then we had the opportunity the next week, where the draw came out on the Wednesday or the Thursday, I think it was the Wednesday, and the West Virginia Wesleyan came back up, so we were playing them weekend to weekend, first round of the national tournament. And like, everyone was like, I remember there's a weird silence in the room where people might have been a little hesitant, and I was like, this is great, like, we can get them back week in. And then we were really high tempo that game, just excited to play them, and we beat them. I think it was 3-0 or something like that, and we were just, that's when we got the confidence back and the belief that we could go on all the way.
I want to
Yeah,
go.
it was a good year.
After that, you go against. I remember you was hosting the national round, and I stayed to watch Adelphi and LIU Post, and we know Adelphi was a tough team. Um, LIU Post goes and beat Adelphi with easier than we thought. And you go to them, they have good coach, they have great players. How you think was the game against LIU Post? I think probably that was one of the toughest games this season. And because after that game, I say, okay, the luck is on our side. Just tell me about the game against LIU Post, that I think is an interesting game. Then the game against California Polymonia, the semifinal, that was like, luck is definitely on our side. And then we go to the final where, but I think it's really interesting, these games, how lucky was IUC sided.
Yeah, I think as anyone that's coming to the US or is playing already, I think anyone that's already here knows the NCAA tournament. Like, at some point, you've got to have some luck. Like, we've been in the tournament enough years now where I've had luck against me, luck against us, luck with us, and you get through rounds and everything. But we get to the Elite Eight or whatever, we face LIU Post, and it was, yeah, that was a tough game. I remember they were a very physical team. I think was that one of their forwards that was, I don't know how tall.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he was a very talented player, and yeah, we were grinding. Was it Gabba that had the free kick? Gabrielle had the free kick, and we went straight in, and we had the luck. We had a little bit of luck with some stuff, but they were a phenomenal team. We knew that was going to be a grind. That we had the home advantage, and then everything like that. So that was a big moment. And then
also, their best player, Charlie, phenomenal star. He got injured alone, and I was like, I'm so glad when he didn't come. I told him, I'm going to interview Ali Simoes, that he works with the LIU head coach at the time, and I told him, man, when that guy was off, that was a relief. I think it was Charlie, the player, really good British lad as well.
So then that's what I mean. You got to have some luck in the tournament, and then you've got in the semi-final we faced Cal Poly, and that is a game that we should have won by a few, I think. And I don't know what happened in that game. I think the ball went under the keeper in the 89th or something like that from Patrick Gaia. But that was a lucky game, to be honest. And then we faced Lynn, and Lynn was obviously my first 2014, the first loss, the national final, and we had the discussion. I think me and Stratford had discussion, and it was early in tournament, maybe second round. And I remember telling him like it's going to be Lynn. Like I know everyone thinks it's going to be, so I don't know what some other teams or whatever was coming up. But I was like, it's going to be Lynn. And then we had Lynn in the national final. It was finally like the redemption and everything in the career. It all came full circle, and I finally got my opportunity to get back at Lynn. And then, yeah, we went to penalties, and Paolo basically won us the final. I've got to give him credit. Like Paolo won us that final.
Did you convert a PK?
No, because I'd missed in the game against West Virginia Wesleyan.
Oh, okay.
Previously, I'd missed 2 in one game. It was the first 2 penalties I'd ever missed, and I missed twice in one game.
So I didn't remember that.
Strats took confidence. They wasn't confident in me, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And then the boys did well. Paolo made saves. Paolo made a massive save halfway through the game, and yeah, we finally got the trophy that I think Charleston had been rooting for all those years.
So the whole city stopped. National championship, one of the probably as far as I know, the best college career I have seen. Why not pursue a professional then? What was your thoughts and how you came from that, and why you end up at LMU, Lincoln Memorial University, GA? Like, you got a great career. Why not pursue professional, or you want to work it? What was in your head after conquer all those things?
I think like I said previously in the podcast, it was like when my last professional career year, I was so fed up with soccer and going into that environment. And then I had the opportunity to come to America, which was the biggest sell, was being in America. And then I started enjoying soccer again and being in a team and everything like that. But there was a part of me that didn't, and even though I played, I think it was my senior summer when I was playing in Oklahoma City in the PDL, and I was back in that environment again, and I enjoyed it because I was playing, like we were playing good soccer, we were playing with good players and everything, but then I didn't have that desire to go back into that lifestyle and everything like that. And throughout the college career in Charleston, we came across so many coaches, like Chris, Dan Stratford, Sean Frazier, and with now Ali Simmons, Scott Wells. We came across all these different coaches, and I know the work they put in, and you know how much work coaching staffs have to put in the university, like in the university game, and I knew how much it meant to them and being able to bring all these players together. And I really decided to like enjoy our vision. I was like, I don't want to pursue a career. This isn't for me. I know some people still have the dream to play in the USL and the MLS and everything, but it wasn't for me anymore. I don't think the soccer, I really enjoyed it. I finished on a national championship, and I'd like to end my career there, you know. I still like to play for fun, but as far as my career goes, I'd like to just finish on that point rather than try to tarnish the memory of playing soccer, you know.
Okay.
So I think that's where I was, yeah.
And how happened? How you end up in LMU, Lincoln Memorial University, the two women's soccer team?
Yeah, that was a big transition. I knew I wanted to continue staying in the country and coaching, and everyone that knows that once you finish soccer, if you're an international, you have to do a graduate assistant, really. Get your master's, which is obviously huge. I never thought I'd come to a university from playing soccer and end up with a master's. So I managed to get my MBA. It was a big moment. And I reached out, and I remember Sean was in 2016. I knew he took the job. And I reached out to him and was like, is there any GAs coming? Because I was obviously graduating in December as well, which was a bit more difficult to find GAs that were available. And me and Sean got along really well when we were in Charleston. I knew the style of coaching he had. We talked a lot of soccer when we were in Charleston. We used to be in the office, and he'd be telling me about everything. So I was really interested with everything there with him. So I reached out to him, and he said, there's a position open here now. I was like, perfect. And he was like, do you want to do it? I was like, yeah, I'm ready. He's like, it's women's soccer. It's a big difference, but I think you'll like it. And I was like, I was willing to do it. I was willing to, because I'd rather be with a coach that that can almost mentor me and I can learn from, rather than being somewhere where I'm in the men's game but I'm not enjoying or learning, because this is a career that I want to go into. So I went with Sean. I came in the spring. We didn't have many numbers. I know there'd been a lot of changes happened in the team that he'd inherited. He had to make a lot of changes, and then the fall that we were together in 2017. I know that previously they had a losing record, and then I think they were sixth or seventh in the conference, and then Sean knew he had to make changes, and then he brought in 18 recruits. My first year, his second year at the team, and he brought in some really good recruits, and he taught me all about the college game. I was able to work with the forwards a lot, which was something I wanted to do. So he gave me, I think that one of the biggest things I had the opportunity to do was he gave me a lot of freedom with the forwards, and he allowed me to learn. I was learning still how to converse. Obviously, we're all still learning, but I was learning how to converse with the forwards, how to work on their movement, what's the best way for me to teach them. And then we managed. He brought in two phenomenal forwards, and they both ended up like top. One of them was the top goal scorer in the conference as a freshman, and it was great to be able to work with them. And I learned a lot tactically. And Sean, he's very, very methodical with the way he thinks. He's very precise, lots of detail, which was a new style for me. It was very learning under a new style. So, and we managed to go. I think I've got it here. It's 14-5-2. We won the SAC conference championship from being like seventh or eighth. Then in his second year, in my first year, we managed to go and get the conference tournament, win the championship there, and then we went to the Sweet 16 as well, which was huge. So it was a big year. It was a big year for LMU women's soccer, and I loved every minute of it. I loved being able to coach with women. I thought it was a very different approach to men, and I think my biggest interest with the women's game compared to the men's is that I think you can really notice players' development a lot more throughout their 4 years as a female athlete rather than as a male athlete, just because of the backgrounds that we're coming from and everything like that.
I feel when I came to Ohio to coach women's, I feel the difference on recruiting, where when you are on the men's, you want to recruit Americans, but the international recruiting is more diverse. And on the women's, Ohio, we have 2 internationals, the rest is national recruiting. So I learned a lot about how the women's, they recruit a lot. Of course, on D1, you're going to have that as well on the men's side. And for me, some big difference, I don't know if you feel that, but like every corner, every free kick is so dangerous, because even on World Cups, as aspect how the goalies go out. So the free kick and the set pieces is so dangerous in women's soccer team. And of course, the game is different. But I felt some difference that were really drastic. And even the way you approach, I think is different. So for you, what is the big difference from men's soccer, women's soccer? And what's your opinion? We are not saying what is right or wrong. We're just saying our personal opinion here.
When it comes to when it came to before I went to LMU, like I used to watch the University of Charleston a bit in the female game, but now I've obviously like immersed in just female soccer, women's soccer now in the US, and yeah, I got to say I'm struggling to see if I would go back to the men's. I think I'm pretty committed to the women's game now. Yeah, I think the way we approach the teams, I think, like you said, set pieces is very key, which is something that we work on massively here. Like that's one of the reasons we've been so successful. I think there's a lot of opportunity to win. I think if you can bring in, I agree with the recruiting is the massive thing that recently, as soon as we moved down here to Louisiana, I've been in Texas twice, the opportunity to go to Texas twice for ECNL tournaments. And that should be your biggest way to bring in recruits really is ECNL, because it's one of the best standards in the US. Obviously you bring in the top players from there, but we also have a lot of internationals coming in at the moment as well. So I think it's a good balance that you want. I think you need a good balance, good diverse balance. But identifying, I think the most difficult thing I had with straight away was identifying players coming from the men's game to the women's, and identify the levels and what we need, which is something that Sean's helped me with massively. And I think that's something that we're really starting to get now, and hopefully hopefully we've got the players that we need to bring in this season.
Going from LMU, GA, how was your role there? What was your main jobs? For say at Ohio University, I'm the one that does bus, food, logistics. And when you're a player, you don't think about it. So I feel at Ohio University from being a GA, I was doing more, not a lot on the field, but a lot of outside the field, being honest. But it's good to learn the logistics.
Yeah.
How was your role at Lincoln Memorial? And then if you can go from there and say how you end up on University of Louisiana Monroe and how you think is your role now, even though it's very neat. You just moved there, but how it's been these different roles because the GA to assistant coach.
I think with Sean, we had Sean at LMU, and then we had me and this other boy Andrea. We were both GAs, and in fairness, Sean put out a list. He has a list of the coach's responsibilities, and then we each had a list. And I think it was apart from maybe a couple of things with the head coach, obviously taking a couple of the main role of the session and tactically what we need to do, and the players ahead leading recruitment, which is head coach's role, obviously, and he does great at that. Is he gave me a lot of responsibility with, apart from I had to equipment, we've got to sort out all the equipment, we've got to drive, we've got to go recruiting, we've got to do travel itineraries, all of that stuff, which is good because there's so much that goes into soccer, and we felt like we were almost understaffed with 3 people, and you're all working, I don't know how many hours a week or a day, and then you just all day, all night, and you still got to keep working every single day to be able to keep your head above water or even to thrive. But yeah, as far as stuff on the field was there, like we did a lot of footage obviously together, and then he was very good at taking the opinions from the 2 GAs because we'd all had a good background, and I think he trusted us, and it allowed us to start gaining confidence as coaches. When sometimes we'd be able to take part of the session, so it typically be broken up into 3 sections, and the general tactical role and the real the substance of the actual session Sean would take, which he delivered really well. But then maybe if it went to like certain drills, maybe I'd come in and they work with me just to get a new voice and a fresh face, just to keep the girls energized in a way. And then sometimes we might break up into position-specific roles, and I'll be able to take the forwards and do my shooting drills with them. And then, like every time we work with forwards, I'll be able to go up there and teach them, like maybe stop the session and break it down and why are you moving this way when we could be moving our body moving a certain different ways to get in on goal, which I think is massive in the women's game, is getting able to get, if you get the movement right, I think it changes everything and gives them more opportunities. So I think as far as a GA went, I had the best GA that I could have had to be able to just understand how all the different areas of college soccer and everything like that, even with certain meetings. I remember early my head coaches meeting, and Sean would take me to the head coaches meeting to say, you need to watch this. There was no other GAs in there, but he was like, you need to be here to learn, otherwise I'm going to have to relay this to you. And he was always encouraging me to learn and put me in situations. So yeah, I'm very grateful. I think it all depends on what graduate assistantship you get. That's why I think I'd always recommend that you get someone that you've previously known or you've had contact with that you trust. But yeah, I was fortunate.
Massive. Now you don't need to give me the secret, but I always ask that. You were there, the winning culture was there. When you go to LMU and you got the championship, you're coming, like you said, from a program that was 7, 8 in the conference, bought of the conference, and then you come to the championship. What do you think, besides the recruitment class, Sean coming, what do you think was the difference? What changed? What was what are those aspects that you bring to the team that make
LMU.
that coming from bottom to top?
Oh, yeah, LMU. Well, it's funny because Sean came off a national championship the year before at UC, and then I came off the actual national championship win in 2017, and then I managed to come in 18. So Sean had already started trying to bring the culture in. But I think to start off with, when you're recruiting, I think it's massive the type of. I know people say you've got to recruit the people as well, but it really is true. You have to have kids that want to be there, and they really invested their time into being student athletes as well. and they understand that it's going to be a grueling season where pre-season's got to be tough. Like that's one thing that we do have a really tough pre-season, but it's just to get through the start of the season, and then we get into the soccer and the detail. I think that Sean brings to everything. It's what sets us apart tactically. I think it's what sets us apart with the right players. You need to bring in athletes. There's so many aspects to the game that you've got to have this winning culture, but we would never we had the biggest thing I think we have is we have a graphic above in the locker room where it's the same here. We have a graphic that's the humble team. Like we have it all across the board. So if anyone starts getting a bit ahead of themselves, or they think they're bigger than the team, or they start winning a few, they're going to learn that like that's not how it does. So I think that's the way to do it, because I think a lot of teams can get carried away. They win a couple games. I've been there. I've done it. I mean, Lynn in the national final in freshman year. I think that's not being a humble team. So I think that was a big learning lesson for me. And I think, yeah, a sense of professionalism from where all the coaching staff had been helped bring it into the culture, and they all buy in.
Core values, coaching philosophy. I agree with you about that, the humble part of the game. Will, grade everything. I normally ask 3 questions, and after that you can add anything you want, or we can finish from there. 3 question is, who is your best friend that soccer gave you? Who was the best player you play with? Who was the best coach you play with? And then you can send a message or anything you want.
Best friend that soccer gave me would be Jake Young. I think you could have guessed that one. I think I'm always going to say Jake is my roommate throughout college, and although he was tough to live with at times. I'm sure he knows that, but he was a lot of fun. He was always the voice, the loud voice in the team, and the joker of the team. So yeah, for sure, it's definitely Jake. What was the second question?
Best player you play with in soccer. Let's do one let's do in college, because you mentioned a lot of players that play in Leicester in college. Best player playing college and best coach you ever had.
Oh, definitely that's that one. I think with play, I'd say Kevin Foyt. I thought he had everything, I think, to make it to the top level. Like I think he was unfortunate his career to have the injury that he had, but like I didn't see what he didn't have to be a top player at any division. So yeah, he was great. I thought he was fantastic. And then I can't answer the last one.
You're gonna stay on the wall. Okay. I'm not gonna force it. Will, I appreciate you coming here. I think your story can serve for a lot of people, and it's one of top stories. And a guy that player, GA, assistant coach, a massive 4 years. I hope you all the best on your new journey at University of Louisiana Monroe. Good luck. Good luck, and hopefully I can see you soon, whether it's in a coach meeting or whatever it is. I'm still on the women's side, but I'm trying to merge the men's side now. I hope you stay safe, and I appreciate the time. Any last message for the people?
Thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me have a chat about everything, really. Here at UC Monroe, we're hoping to change things around, do what we did at LMU. I think there's a lot of potential here. So we've got a lot of work. We've got our projects ready and our goals set. So I think we're ready to go.
Sounds good. We'll take care, mate.
All right. Thanks, buddy.